All right, welcome. This is the How Technology Accelerating TISMO session. There's never enough money to build our way out of congestion, but with data and technology fueling the way, TISMO is helping ODOT make a significant dent. We have dual presenters here today, John MacAdam, and the keeper. John has worked in operations for the Ohio Department of Transportation for 14 years. He currently oversees the Office of Traffic Management. Their team is responsible for ODOT's TISMO efforts, statewide traffic management center, freeway safety patrol, ODOT's weather management efforts, Ohio traffic incident management, and emergency operations. John and his wife Ashley have two wonderful children, Landon and Ellie. John is a proud graduate of The Ohio State University and is passionate about solving problems and using technology.
All right.
And Adam is going to focus in, so you don't see his bio.
Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Are these live?
These are not live, but part of working with the TMCs, you get to see lots of crash videos. So we just have that on in the background.
Yeah, we don't have candy bars, but we do have crash videos.
Right. So I've got a couple good questions. How this presentation relates to last year's presentation, and it's similar, but we definitely have expanded both kind of what we call TISMO, what we've done, and we've got a lot of updates, right? And we've kind of targeted this one to be a little bit more technology specific, right? So we'll have kind of two halves of this presentation. Think of the first half of the presentation where we're just kind of defining TISMO, talking about what it is, why we do it, why we have another program at ODOT. Just for show of hands, who even has heard of TISMO or knows what it stands for or anything? Have you heard of TISMO? Raise your hand. Okay, more than half the room. That's good. That's good. I'll just cut to the chase. It stands for Transportation Systems Management and Operations, right? And we'll get into what the heck that means, right? So we're going to spend time talking about the familiar things that ODOT has done for a long time that fall under this TISMO umbrella. Then the second half will be the new stuff. We'll talk about new things we're doing with data, new things we're doing with devices, and new traffic management strategies we're doing to help move things better. Okay, so I'm going to get into some of the why, and kind of just defining what TISMO is. This is ODOT's mission, right? Everybody has this memorized, hanging up on their wall, or at your forced background on your computer, whatever. Provide for the easy movement of people and goods from place to place. We will take care of what we have. That's ODOT's robust asset management system, right? We will also make our system work better so that we can improve safety and enhance capacity. So TISMO is really about making our system work better. So if you think of a traditional fix on the roadway, it takes a lot of studying, it takes a lot of money, and a lot of time. Right? TISMO is more of what can we do in a shorter period of time to make our system work better with the conditions we know exist now. Another way of saying what I just said is that TISMO uses practical solutions to address immediate safety and congestion problems. And advanced technologies are also applied to make our system work better right now. It's not all technology, but it's a lot of technology in the TISMO world. I want to highlight three things and kind of walk you through a story. I want to highlight safety, mobility, and reliability, right? Reliability is just how much are you running into congestion? How often are you running into congestion? So think of those three terms: safety, reliability, and mobility. If you ask federal highways, why would a DOT do TISMO? Why do we need a TISMO program? They would say things like limited funding, advances in technology, more prolific real-time data, changing customer needs and expectations, and then a really better understanding of the causes of our congestion. Again, these all resonate with us here in Ohio. So those causes of congestion, we kind of break it down into two things. Recurring congestion and non-recurring congestion. On the left, you see an urban area, typical urban area like here in Columbus. So you might have bottlenecks, your rush hour traffic. You might have special events, an OSU football game. You might have traffic incidents. A significant portion of congestion is traffic incidents, right? Bad weather, because we live in Ohio. Work zones, poor signal timing. These are the main sources of congestion. Again, so the recurring is the everyday rush hour when you leave here and you try to go back somewhere. The non-recurring is everything else. Now, the rural area, obviously they don't have as much of the regular, but they get the other strategies for those other sources of congestion become all the more important. Take traffic incidents, for example. Now you're running up to 40%. Not only are they more important because it's a higher volume of your congestion, there's also just going to be fewer alternate routes. Yeah, and there's going to be speed becoming an issue. Good point. So then, I won't go through the list, but there's strategies and technologies for every one of those sources of congestion. Work zone management, special event preparedness. We have traffic control plans. We have traffic signal coordination, traveler information, active traffic demand management, even connected and autonomous vehicle. There's different strategies for all those, right? Some of it's technology, some of it's training, some of it's projects. We'll get into some of those samples.
So, is there a time frequency that dictates what's recurring and what's non-recurring?
No, but there is, we can pull interstate, and we can say, your section of roadway has congestion, and let's look at the bottlenecks on your section of roadway. You might have 6 recurrences over the course of a year. His corridor might have 200. His is recurring, right? And you can start to say, okay, your impact factor is a lot worse. Maybe you're only backing up a half mile, but you're doing it 200 times in a year. You might have a crappy crash once every other month that backs it up for 3 miles, but it's only happening a few times. So you get different strategies for both of those. We might be training people how to clear incidents quicker in your case. You might need to put in a new lane or restrike things in this case. So there's a difference in occurrences and frequency.
That's what I was just thinking, like you gave the Ohio State football games as an example. We can predict that. We know when the home games are. We know what the time of it is.
And we can plan for that. We can put out messages ahead of time, open and close exit ramps, keep people moving where they need to so you avoid congestion and crashes.
So is that considered a recurring?
That would be a special event. It's probably non-recurring. It's not frequent enough that it would fall under. Recurring is really your bad everyday rush hour. This is going to happen basically every Tuesday, every Wednesday, that type of thing. So that would probably fall under non-recurring. That's a good question. So another way to talk about, I don't know if, just a few people in this room might have heard this story, but I want to give a personal example, kind of to reiterate why these things are so important. This is my brother James on the left, obviously. There's only one guy there. This is his wife Sarah. They have been married for just a few years. He just finished college. He works here northwest side of town. He is a civil engineer, apparently runs in the family. I don't know, has anybody ever had a family member stuck in traffic and they call and complain to you because you work for ODOT? Has that ever happened to anybody? So if you work for ODOT, traffic is your problem, right? Well, I have an example of a time when this happened to my brother. So I'm going to go back almost a year, October 4th of last year. My brother is on the way to work. Now, he's a civil engineer, but he's not a transportation engineer. So he doesn't get to work with traffic. He gets to work with, this is called leachate. It is literally liquid trash. It is potent and it is nasty. So he works on wastewater treatment plants and works in sewers. Yeah, so he gets to do all that nasty stuff. So it's not so bad working with traffic. So on this one specific day, he was going out to a plant out in Dayton, and again, he left early enough from Columbus. He can avoid traffic here, getting out near Dayton to the plant. He thought everything's going to be fine. Not so much. He got stuck in traffic, right? So he expected the traffic to be reliable, right? It was not. So this is what happened that day. Orange on the top is a normal day on the specific stretch of Clark County Interstate 70. Normally, there's no traffic out there any time of the day, really. It's hovering between 60 and 70. This one day that he chose to go out there, there was an accident, caused a huge backup, right? So this is my brother. This is when he got stuck. He was basically not moving. He's calling. He's frustrated. What's going on? The AC in his car doesn't work really well, so he's getting hot. He's getting frustrated, and it's my fault. He gets late to the plant. He was expecting to only be there until about 2, so he can get back home to his wife. That didn't work out because he was late, so he had to stay all day. So he was very frustrated. Right? It happens to all of us, right? It happens from time to time. You get stuck in traffic. Wasn't expected. Wasn't reliable for him. Causes frustration. Now, to make matters worse, spent the whole day there, turned around, came back, was back in the car about 4 o'clock. There was another crash in the other direction coming back towards Columbus, and almost right across the freeway, And there he was again. So he called me back.
Neat little bubbles.
Yeah, he had some words. So he was frustrated. Surprises are very frustrating, right? This is something that we all get. But as frustrating as congestion and unreliable traffic can be, it can be worse, right? Safety is a huge component. And we know what happens if you leave these crashes out here long enough. This is the original crash that he got stuck in the westbound direction. He was in the backup way back here, right? That was the original crash. Now, thankfully, nobody got hurt in that crash. It was a car caught on fire, driver got out, but they closed the road for a while, they had to deal with that. But unfortunately, in that backup, 3 miles behind the original, and about 45 minutes later, this happened. And this was a fatality. So we had an individual die here. Secondary crash happens all too often in the back of a queue. And in the other direction, around 1 p.m., there were people gawking, slowing down, looking across the freeway to cleanup efforts. Another slowdown, another rear end, another car fire, and this was another fatality in the other direction. So that's what caused the backup there. So again, while it was a bad day for him, it was obviously worse for those families, right? So, and then let me just run back to these charts real quick. All of this information is very measurable, right? And so we can come up with charts like this and we can start to do things. But I want you to kind of just think about what kind of a load did this put on ODOT, right? Think if you're a Clark County employee, what kind of a load does this put on you? Then this is the westbound again. This is the demands that were put on them. So immediately they had to put out advance warning. They had to put out portable signs. They had to contact the TMC, get messages out. They had to make sure things were getting onto OGO. They had to do scene assessments. They had to set up some pretty long detours on 40. That looks like a lot of signs and a lot of coordination. Then they had to clean up diesel fuel. The guardrail caught fire, so they had to fix the guardrail posts. The asphalt got damaged. They had to come back at night. That's why they had to come back and close the freeway at night and do emergency repairs on the asphalt. They ran out of people for this traffic control, so they had to call the county to the east, get them to come in and bring resources. So they had to jump off what they were doing, come and help. Then in the westbound direction, again, they were already out of people, so when this happened, they had to call the next county over to further west and say, we need your resources to come over, help us set up more traffic control. The whole time you're communicating, you have to follow pre-existing communication plans, right? You have to document this stuff, you have to let everybody, the left hand has to talk with the right hand. And for this one, they had to prepare for a care flight helicopter to come onto the roadway. So they had to close off traffic for that. They had to shut exit ramps down. So again, this puts a lot of burden on ODOT. And the more prepared we are ahead of time, and the better we can react to these things, or obviously the quicker things clear. Now this is a pretty extreme example, but I think you get the point. The other thing that happens, we're not going to go through every source of congestion, right? Crashes are a big one. Obviously, we live in the state of Ohio. Weather is a big cause of unexpected traffic impacts. These are two images that are not doctored, less than an hour apart. This is one, this is two. This is called a snow squall. Happens in the state of Ohio, causes unexpected traffic backups, causes crashes, right? There was a particular stretch in Lake County, east of Cleveland, where this happened a lot. We put in a variable speed limit corridor. You'll hear Adam give some updates on that later. This is what would happen when those snow squalls would come through. Big pileups, and you'd make USA Today headlines with things like 50 cars, 14 vehicles involved, multiple injuries. That's the kind of stuff you don't want to see in the headlines, right? Okay, I'm switching off of the defining TSMO, why it's important. Now I'm kind of switching to just some familiar technologies that the department has been doing for a long time that kind of fall under the TSMO umbrella. Anybody here, hopefully familiar with our ITS program and the technologies around that, right? So all of our ITS, we have a very mature program. Hopefully you got to see the demo downstairs this morning with some of our new fancy cameras and whatnot. We have a strong ITS program in the state of Ohio. This looks like technology on the road, signs, cars, cameras that help us disseminate information to the traffic. This is one of those strategies. So you might see these in the urban area, right? You might see the travel time boards in the rural areas. A lot of this gets operated through the TMC. We have one statewide traffic management center where they're utilizing this, all the data coming in from cameras, from speed data, from weather data, from everything else, over the radio, over email. They collect all this and then they put it back out to using all those devices, they put it back out to the public. Just some pictures of our new TMC. We did open a new TMC earlier this year. You should stop in and see it next time you're in central office. We have operational things like our freeway safety patrol. This is a program where we go around and we do two things. We have trucks in the urban areas that help abandoned or disabled vehicles or that have mechanical issues or maybe some running out of fuel. They help them get back in the flow of traffic so they don't jack up traffic even worse. They also help with traffic control at the scene of incidents. Put up their error boards or their message boards, let people know what's happening, get traffic away from that, protect the scene while it's being quickly cleared, and we can get things back flowing again. We also have pre-planned operations. This is a winter maintenance plan for a lake effect snowstorm that happens in the northeast part of the state. Again, what it's saying here is all the counties in red don't have enough resources to keep up with the demand, right? So that means we're going to shift resources from the orange counties up, but they still need help on their routes, so then we're going to shift and it kind of backflows down until you're down here where these people don't need to utilize all the resources, they're just helping. So these plans exist ahead of time so that we can respond to that kind of a storm. And we also measure the success of how long, this is one of our performance measures. We are able to measure how long did it take us to recover speeds back to normal, right? And we've said it's one of ODOT's critical success factors. We have a goal of 2 hours. After every storm, we want to get the speeds back up to about where you should be, within 10 miles an hour. And you have 2 hours to do that, right? If you do it within 2 hours, like this example, then you pass the CSF. We have weather data. We have 180 some odd what's called RWIS stations across the state, and it collects things at the ground level. Again, not atmospheric, but it can tell you what the road conditions are. We've been doing a lot of pilots with non-invasive sensors. You can get wind speeds, you can get precipitation type and intensity, you can get pavement conditions. There's a lot of data that gets collected here. We have a robust signal timing program. Shout out Charlie Fisher in the back. So this is one of the programs that has the biggest benefit to cost ratios by simply retiming signals or fixing faulty detectors. We can move traffic a lot more efficiently and make that whole corridor a lot safer. So we do a lot of that every year.
Could you share it with the city of Columbus, please?
He knows a guy.
Menards
Reader,
is
another one of
opening
those
real
things.
soon at Hilliard Roman Federal Road.
Grant metering is another one of those things. It's a technology. It's used to control traffic, but it helps improve traffic flow, right? It can go on and on and on. I'll kind of skip variable speed limits, but it's another one of those where we're taking sensors, we're giving tools in the hands of the TMC that they can lower speeds ahead of time so that you can move more people through, kind of like grant metering. Move more people through by slowing them down and advance warning, and we'll get to that and how that's working in Adam's slides. Okay, I just want to kind of now shift towards some of the newer things. We've got two new things shown here. We've got a TMC specialist. These are the folks that are going to be running 670 when that opens. These are the folks that are changing the speed limits. And I want to show this new hardware. You may have seen it down at the ITS demo, but look over on the right. We've got cameras now that are smart enough to detect when slow traffic comes. They see that happen right there. They send an email right away and they say, oops, slow traffic detected. And this is an instant alert that can be shown to the TMC. It could even trigger a message straight onto a queue warning sign if there's one near there. So our cameras are getting smarter and they're now able to detect events like that. It would also be able to detect the wrong way driver and either notify TMC or notify, in some cases, straight to law enforcement. So our hardware is getting smarter. 670, I'll kind of defer this to Adam, but we're putting a lot of brand new technology on 670. We're basically putting 3 signs in one, right? And I'll kind of defer that to Adam. Obviously, OGO is another one of those tools we have. We have a website, we have an app. Now, one new thing I want to show about OGO is this new URL capability. I don't know if you've noticed, but OGO has a little thing at the top now that says copy URL, copy the link. And I want to kind of show you how it works. So if you go to ogo.com and you put in /region equals Columbus, it'll center you on Columbus. And then the rest of these are query parameters. If you're familiar with the URL query parameters, you can say and LT equals -82.42, whatever, and longitude equals 39 point whatever. And you can say, I also want to be zoomed in at this level, and I want these layers turned on. I want cameras turned on, I want message boards turned on, and I want speed delays turned on. Right? So you can create a URL, you can copy it, you can send it to somebody at a whole other computer, they open up and see exactly what you were seeing. That's helped with communications a lot. So that was a pretty cool thing we've done recently. Another big thing we've done with OGO is we have turned every one of our layers into an API endpoint, letting other developers use, so you don't have to come to OGO. You can obviously, but you can get the information. We've already started feeding it to Waze, and we're working with some others to start to bang on this and build their own little applications. So basically, any one of the layers on OGO, you can get through an API. The URL is at, Crystal, help me if I'm wrong, publicapi.ogo.com. So if you know any developers. And then the last thing I want to kind of talk about with OGO is our new partnership with Waze. Not only are we sharing our data with Waze, we're going to be integrating Waze's data into OGO. So what that's going to look like is two new sub-layers, one under incidents and one under construction. It'll say Waze incidents and Waze construction. So yes, you'll still get the ODOT has reported and verified there's an incident here or that there's a closure here, but we are mostly focused on the major system, right, where we have the ITS equipment, where we have the cameras. Waze is, obviously you know where it comes from, it's everywhere. It's wherever people report. And so we are saying if Waze's information reaches a certain reliability, we will show it on OGO. We won't send you an alert, but if you're looking at OGO, it'll be there. And this means that we're fairly confident something's going on, but we're not 100% sure, right? We've had a very high success rate with that so far in our testing. That launches like next week. Next Wednesday. And then the last thing, so Charles totally stole my slide this morning. but I wanted to give you a little bit more context to what he said. So you heard him talk a lot about that IDE, that streaming platform. We've started to share a lot of our data, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our warehouse. But we started to take a lot of our data and combine it into a system so that we can start to make better decisions quicker. So this is, again, you already explained it, but this is what it would look like if you just, this is right now just two data sources. If you had to try to wrap your head around the speed data coming in and the Waze incidents coming in, this is how much information you have to check continuously. But now if you filter that on the right, you're looking at just where the speed is saying, hey, normally I'm supposed to be 35, but I'm 4 miles an hour. Here's the location, and here's the travel time it takes to get through there. So you're at least 30 miles an hour below where you should be. And if there's Waze reporting an incident of a certain reliability, that would also show up over there. So we're consolidating our streaming platform. And we're just trying, we're going to eventually build a map on top of this. We're trying to target where if you put yourself in the shoes of a TMC operator, you have to watch speed data, bottleneck data. Highway Patrol is sending you crash reports. You've got cameras sending you alerts. You've got people radioing in. You've just got an overwhelming amount of information. We're trying to consolidate as much as that as possible into a streaming platform to show here's an incident detection. Look here first, right? So that's what we're doing there. And I already mentioned the warehouse, but that whole data is built on this, what we call our Tismo data warehouse. So we worked with Katie and her team to kind of kick this off a couple years ago. We now have an instance in Azure, a true data warehouse. And again, so this is what, I'll just give you an example. This is where all of our data for the first version lived. Some of it was in coming from devices, some of it was coming from a feed, some of it was coming from an XML, some of it was coming from a spreadsheet, some of it was coming from SharePoint, right? We took all that together and said, we got to get all this data in the same place. If we ever want to build true performance measures or true dashboards, we can't be connecting to 14 different data sources. We've gone through a discovery phase, we've put all this data together, and we use everything from Microsoft that starts with an S. SSIS, SSAS, SSMS, I don't even know what all of them are. But let me just give you an example of the fruits of that. So on the left, you're going to see a video. This is our easiest report that we make. We make a lot of reports, we do a lot of performance measures. It just takes man hours, right? So this is the easiest report that we have to make. It's our freeway safety patrol report. This is what it looked like if a person had to do it manually. This is now what it looks like that we've connected a spreadsheet to the warehouse. All right, so let me just kind of walk you through it. No, I jumped the gun. Okay, here we go. So on the left, you have to go to the website and you have to start to request data. On the right, we're just going to open up our Excel spreadsheet that's already plugged into the warehouse. Again, so here I am logging into the data provider. Over here, I'm just making sure my connection is good to the warehouse. Okay, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start requesting my data, the dates and the times. Over here, I'm simply going to change the slider from last month to this month. That's all I have to do. Okay, so over here, I'm going to go through, I'm going to put in my request. Now, the piece I cut out, okay, this guy's already done all it, right? We have all of our updated numbers and we can hit print for a report. Now over here, I'm gonna skip a step where you have to wait an hour for the data to come back and you have to download it. Okay, we just skipped that step. Now we're going through, we've got the download, and we're gonna throw it into our report template. And we don't need to sit here for another 3 minutes, but just trust me, it takes a lot longer, right? So we've now just got it to literally, for this, we've done this with 2 of our performance measures now. You open it up in a spreadsheet, you change the slider, it's connected to the warehouse, you get your data. Okay, I'm gonna skip it. We don't need to sit here that long. Again, just here's an example. Best case scenario, that one we were just watching, it would take you 90 minutes. We've now got it to under a minute. Monthly teacher group, it takes about a week to do that. Again, under a minute now that we're connected to the warehouse. We haven't built these 2 yet. We're working on it. This was almost all the way done. This report took a while, about 3 weeks. We can get it within a couple minutes through the warehouse once it's finished. We're trying to get that done by this winter. Toast annual list, it took about 2 months manual. We think we can do it about a week when we leverage the warehouse. So you can see some of the benefits of getting, we're very excited about that. And I want to show, instead of talking about our dashboard, I just want to show it. We've got a proof of concept.
Should data delivered that fast? I mean, is it all automated so that you're collecting it?
It's not real time. It gets the previous month, but good question.
Okay.
So here's a proof of concept. That stupid thing. Okay. Here is a proof of concept of our dashboard that we have built. Instead of showing on a slide, I'd love to show it in real time. This is fun to do on a screen. Okay. So what we have here is a month's worth of data just for our freeway safety patrol in an analytics platform. So I can come in here and say, okay, look, all districts, freeway safety patrol stops for, I think this was the month of July. And I can see like region by region, how many stops we've had. I can see it on a map. I can see it by shift. I can see it by driver. I can see it by day of the week. I can see it by, again, stop type, or I can just come up here and interact with it. So I can say, just show me, let's just take a look at Akron's data. Mike is in the house, right? Thought I saw there, Mike. All right. Again, so you can see how the numbers have changed now, because we're just looking at Akron. Obviously, the map's going to change, hopefully. You can see, okay, he's got a little bit of different breakdown here. Let me drill down a little bit, right? Let me drill down. And let me look at, what would be a good thing?
See what route.
Let's look at the route. Drill down by route. Good point. So you can see which routes he's got the most on. Looks like 76 has a lot of activity in the morning. Yeah. So again, you can start to break it down like that. Let me come up here and reset it. Another interesting thing is you can go stop types. Okay, now I would expect actually the PM to be higher than the AM if we just look at crashes. I should test this before I do it live, but where's motor vehicle goodness? Motor vehicle accident. So hopefully this guy updates and we see more. Yeah, okay, the afternoon has more crashes than the morning. And I would think Columbus gets higher than a lot of the other ones. Let's see, where's Columbus? 199. Yep, Columbus is number 1 now. We can do other things. I'll just show one more part of this.
Where'd you build this in?
This is actually built on top of Zoho Analytics, which is like a Power BI alternative. Okay, here's another cool thing. We can go down and look by mile marker. So obviously mile marker, if you're looking at every route and every district, doesn't do you a whole lot of good. But like, let's go look at Cincinnati 75. Where is route? Where is route? Let's try this. I guess we're not going to do it because it's resolution. Okay. Well, if we could choose by route, you'll see this filter out just by mile marker. You see where your spikes are, right? But you get the idea. It's a very interactive dashboard, so it's a lot better than just PDF reports. That's the direction we're heading. That's our proof of concept right now. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam to talk about what else we're doing with it.
Thanks, Sean. So we've got all this data. We have to do a couple things. So we have to create a metric out of it. We have to analyze it. We have to come up, we can define what the problem is from our data, and then we have to come up with some solutions. So part of what I've done in the last year since I've joined this office is I've worked with our district TISMO coordinators, Dylan and Justin and Mike and Every district has a TISMO coordinator now, and so what we've done is we've kind of come up with a process. How do we identify what our problems are, identify what some potential solutions to those problems are, we call those countermeasures, and then how do we physically fix those things? So the department hasn't created a new construction program in over 20 years. Any guess what the last new construction program was? Highway safety, 20 years ago. And it's probably our most efficient program, and so we've made no secret that we're copying Michelle May, the First Lady of Freeway Safety, as she calls herself. We're copying her program and her model because it works and it's simplified. The whole goal of this is to create a simplified process to fix problems now. We can identify the congestion we're having now, and now we want to fix it now. So this is our process. So we get all this raw data that John told you about, the INRIX data, and then we have to do some analytics to it. And this is called our TOAST process, and I'll explain to you what that is. Once we have that, our district coordinators take over from here, and they're going to pick which routes are the ones that they want to study and propose some different solutions to. And then we have two different avenues that we go from there. Over on your left side is the operations countermeasure. So if the problem here is something that we can fix with, if they have a bad incident clearance time, maybe we need to put out some traffic incident management training in that particular area. That's one of the potential solutions to that area. Or maybe we need to enhance our freeway service control. The stuff to address the non-recurring congestion is typically handled by, non-recurring measures are handled by typically operations countermeasures. This is where I was getting confused, sorry. Our recurring stuff is the stuff that we have to make a capital improvement to typically to fix. So we don't have enough capacity to get traffic through every day, like 71 southbound near Crew Stadium every morning. And my wife calls and tells me that she's surprised every morning that she's stuck in traffic there every day. And then she says, boy, I wish there was someone at ODOT I could talk to that can fix this. She hasn't quite put two and two together yet, but that's okay. So this is a high-level explanation of our process to fix these problems. And I'm going to focus in on the capital countermeasure side now. This is brand new to the department.
Maybe.
Did you use the clicker, John?
Nope, I use the arrow.
All right, well, I guess I'm using the arrow. Okay, so first we have to convert that data to information, and we call that our TOAST, Transportation Operations Assessment Systems tool. And when you think of TOAST, think of good toast on the left and not bad burnt toast on the right. And so TOAST takes a bunch of this data that John talked about, and these are our key metric categories. So our travel time performance. So INRIX is our partner now moving forward. We're engaged in a full contract in real-time speed data on the state highway system and historical. And does anyone here have TomTom on in their car, or Sirius, or have a Motorola phone? They're capturing your data through those means and sharing it with us. Not specifically you, but general. So we're getting speeds from those sources and different other probe sources from them. From that data, they can tell what the expected speed of that road's supposed to be and what the actual speed of that is, and then it's telling us in colors or in data where the problems are. So we're going to take a look at, through TOAST, over that segment of each segment of roadway over the span of the previous year, and rank those and say which ones are performing closest to their expected level and which ones aren't. If you get a low travel time performance, that means you're not performing well. It's backing up rarely. A bottleneck is detected through INRIX as well, and that's also not good for flow and reliability. So each segment is scored for a bottleneck, and your score is reduced based on how poorly it performs, or it's improved how the higher, I want to be higher, it's the opposite, but you get the point. So then separately, we measure incident clearance time. We have a couple ways we can do that. So the public safety collects all of the crash reports that happen in the state of Ohio from local police and from the highway patrol. They've recently updated their crash form, and most police departments use an electronic version of that. Not all, Cleveland still does paper. But Derek Troyer and his group in the highway safety program, they maintain a database of all of these crash reports. So we can go into, we share a database with them, and we can look at the time that an incident happened. When we say incident, it's synonymous with crash. A crash happened at X amount of times, meaning someone called 911. And then on the report, the time that the officer clears the scene in the old reports, or now there's actually a clearance box for the lane. So we can do the math and figure out how long it took for that crash to clear the route. So the higher the time, the worse it is, because in our world, congestion equals crashes. So the longer that the police is blocking the lane, or the crash is blocking the lane, the more likely congestion is to occur, the queue's going to happen, the more likely a crash is to occur, a secondary crash. On the secondary crashes, in those very same reports, there's a box that the officer can check to say that this was a secondary crash, but we can also detect that just by writing an algorithm to detect it. So if we say, all right, so there's a crash occurring at this time, within 2 hours of that, within a certain amount of distance, Bill wrote this for recently. Shout out to you, Bill, this is pretty cool. Bill wrote a Python script, right, that basically says, so if a crash occurs within this distance and this time 2 miles, within an hour or something of another crash, then it was a secondary crash, and then scored that on the metrics. It was pretty cool. We'll give you mad props for that. Once we get the crash reports completely streamlined throughout the state, we can probably rely more on the crash reports themselves than Bill's cool thing. So you enjoy your props this year. The more secondary crashes you have, obviously the worse performing you are. The next metric is safety performance, and this is something that we share with the safety program. So basically, Derek Troyer's created it. It's called the PSI density factor. So he'll take any segment of roadway and compare it. So I got a 2-lane that has this amount of traffic volume, and compare it to all the similar routes. And basically, it'll say you have this amount of crashes on your segment. The comparison routes of similar have this many, so you get a plus or minus. So either your segment of roadway is performing at or below or above the expected safety performance. So if it's below the safety performance, meaning there's more crash than its sister segments, you get a poor score on it. And then we look at volume per lane. So obviously each roadway is designed to handle a certain capacity. So if the volume is higher than what it's designed, then that would lower your score. And freight is also gone into the equation because the value of freight on our roadway is much greater than me as a single person, or even if I had my family in my car, because that freight has a higher economic impact on our delay. So if a semi is delayed, that has a bigger economic impact than me and my Honda Odyssey on the road. And so once we take all that together in the span of about a week with our Tismo data warehouse now, after compiling all this data for a year, we come up with our toast list right here. So this is a ranking. This is actually Adams County, it's alphabetical, but essentially we get every segment, which could be as small as I think a half mile this year now. Was that the middle one?
Even smaller.
Even smaller. Quarter mile is the new one this year. So each segment of the state highway system is ranked with all those categories. We put a weighting on all of them, and we come up with an aggregate score, as you can see on the left. So the lower score you get, the worse performing you are. And this is what's going to open up the eyes of our Tismo coordinators here, and they're going to figure out which routes they want to look at, study, and try and fix and improve. And this also gives them an area to focus their studies on. We're ODOT, we love maps, so we convert all that data into a map. We now have a GIS person in the Office of Traffic Management that's helping develop these even further. And as you would expect, our rural areas are more congested. So red and yellow is bad, blue and green is good. And so the areas of Columbus you'd expect that we all know from driving through there, if you're from here, are red because they are slow every day. So what is this doing for ODOT? Well, it's kind of identifying that we have to change the way that we do business. So we have to take all this data, and we need someone that has skill in analyzing this data to come up with converting it to useful information, right? So we need people that not just have a background in data or have a background in engineering, but we also need people that have a background in qualitative or quantitative analysis or have a background in statistics. And we need a skill set that's been a void for this department because we have this new data that we've never really relied on for. We're shifting from being anecdotal in responsiveness to data-driven, right? And so there's a skill set that we need to identify in here. And it's not just a TE3 or a TE4. It's someone with data skill sets.
It's a job description that does not exist yet.
It does not, and that's something that we did propose. Like Ian proposed data governance, a chief data officer. Our proposal was to look at a paragraph in the TE series or a separate classification that does have these data analysis skills. And so the other thing that we're shifting is we're looking for a quicker implementation of our countermeasures. Our customers are demanding that we are quicker in response. So how do we do that? Well, we have to, let's look at a traditional project. So I build a road, if I build it, they will come, and after a couple of years, traffic's congested, and our district staff recognizes, hey, this route's congested, and so we're gonna study it, so a year goes by. And then we're gonna say, hey, we got a problem here, let's do some preliminary engineering on it, another year goes by. Now, let's get through environmental clearance and roadway, or right-of-way clearance, and then now let's get through the detailed plan design, let's put it up for bid, now let's construct it. So we're up to 7, 8, 10 years in some cases, right? The whole purpose of TISMO is to identify these things very quickly, make a real-time decision-making process as quickly as possible, and get construction on the ground. So we're looking at projects with newer and more innovative countermeasures, which can be high-tech or it can be very low-tech. It could be the signs that John was talking about. It could be something as simple as restriping. One of our most successful projects to date is called Performance-Based Practical Designs, 480 in Cleveland. There's an off-ramp with an auxiliary lane that goes away when the off-ramp hits, and then you've got basically 4 lanes, exit, then it's down to 3 lanes, and then there's another exit. Well, we have the same traffic capacity going through that zone, so what they decided to do is like, hey, we have identified we have a bottleneck problem here, so then they said, well, why don't we just reconfigure our lanes for this mile stretch of road to basically reestablish that lane. So now we have 4 lanes going through, and just by narrowing the lanes a little bit, getting a little bit of a design exception, and taking a little bit of work off the shoulders, or a little bit of square footage off the shoulders, now we've got 4 lanes of traffic going back through, and that bottleneck is gone. It doesn't have to be cameras, it doesn't have to be signs, it doesn't have to be technologies. So forget the feasibility study that we normally do for projects. We're just looking at a simplified, abbreviated study. It would basically kind of be a one-pager that shows all of our data that that's used in this decision-making process, the plan to the countermeasure, and then we're also developing the benefit costs of each of our TISMO solutions so we can rank our solutions and fund them based on a priority. And so in the safety world, they're looking at a crash reduction by installing an improvement. We're looking at a delay reduction. This is the first time anyone's really put this together in the country, and Ohio's in the driver's seat for that. So some of the projects that we've done, John mentioned the VSL, so we've got now 5 RWIS stations set up throughout the corridor. It detects when visibility or pavement conditions are poor, and it funnels back into the TMC through our new our ATMS platform. It's Buckeye Traffic now, it's going to be replaced. And when those conditions trigger the threshold, we decide, hey, we're going to lower the speed down. So this has been installed for 3 winters now, 2 winters now, 3rd year, and the crashes did decrease 50%. The secondary crashes went over 1/3. For Smart Lane, and Brooding and Dave Rose have been hammering social media with Smart Lane. So this is actually what Smart Lane is. It's part-time shoulder use or hard shoulder running. So instead of building an extra lane throughout the 670 corridor, which would cost us over $75 million, and it would take years of construction, because we'd have to take all that right away along the right side of the road. And if you drive 670, you know that there's businesses built up against the property there. So we got this inside shoulder. If we take just a little bit of that shoulder and we modify the barrier in the middle during peak hours, which is in the afternoon eastbound, we can enhance capacity moving through without spending $75 million to add an entire lane of traffic through. We're not buying much right away at all, and we're not spending years constructing this. We're using technology to control this lane. And if you look at these signs, it's on what's called a gantry. These are erected now through the zone, and this is opening 3rd week of October. We have the technology in place in the TMC to operate this, but we're basically condensing down 3 different types of signs into one. We've got, as you can see in the top right, we've got the lane control signs, the variable speed limit signs, and then we can also put shoulder open, shoulder closed, and any other messaging in the middle of it. This is kind of, these signs are big, and if you've driven through Michigan or Virginia, you know that they just have an individual lane control sign that's a small box over each one. With this sign, though, we're consolidating into all the signs into one location, and we're able to manage incidents in here to kind of keep the first responders safe and keep that traffic safe and restore traffic to a good flow before. So the way it essentially works is our traffic management center has 100% traffic coverage, or traffic camera coverage over the entire corridor, and we're going to send our freeway service patrol out to pull out any debris before we open it. District 6 has a new high-speed street sweeper that they're going to run through the shoulder before we open it. And once the peak capacity is hit during the peak hour, we'll go ahead and open the lane. So here's a view of the whole corridor and all the different signs that are going in there. 9 DMS signs. So I'll lastly leave you with this. They erected the last gantry sign the second week of August, so this is August 19th. So keep an eye on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen just after they got it built. It comes in hot and heavy. Oh, heading to an 110,000 pound sign, and thankfully it's up. So this whole program is based on using new technology. We're using the technologies to sense, generate, deliver, store, share, and organize the data. It's terabytes of data. Our data warehouse now is up to 26 terabytes. And that's not even, we're not even talking connected vehicle or autonomous vehicle data right now. We're using we're using new technologies to interpret that data, analyze it, and we're using newer analytical tools that we've never had before. And we're using, hopefully, we're going to be using new data analytics personnel to convert that to information and propose solutions. And we want to identify and prioritize these projects to create real-time fixes to the real-time problems that we have. And we have to use new technologies to maintain these systems. We have to use new technologies to operate these systems through the TMC. And most importantly, we use new technologies to communicate to our traveling public, who are our customers. So all in all, we're using technology in every aspect of our program to accelerate the improvement, safety, and reliability quickly across our system, fulfilling our mission. Any questions?
I got
Katie?
the hard shoulder running.
Yeah.
As an employee of ODOT, I'm very familiar, especially since I work in IT, on what that is.
Yeah.
But what are you doing for public outreach? You're opening the 3rd week of October. How are we out doing outreach to the public to educate them on what this is and when to use it? Because quite honestly, we've all been on that highway, and there's that dirt going up there anyway, right? We've all seen them coming up the berm in our rear view. I'm a fan of pulling over to the edge to keep them from going any further because it's dangerous,
Sure.
right?
So we're doing a few things. District 6 and us have come together, most of District 6 have put together a whole communications toolkit. They've got videos, social media, they've done paid content, press releases for local media. We've also partnered with enforcement, specifically in and around the part-time shoulder use, so that for the first at least 2 months of operations, there will be at least 3 extra law enforcement officers on the zone to let people know when they shouldn't be in that lane. So we're going to be increasing enforcement, so it's a 2-pronged approach. It's public awareness and it's enforcement. And then they're also going to be enforcing for the variable speed limit aspect of this. For 2 weeks, don't tell your friends, for 2 weeks, they won't ticket you, they'll just warn you, because the variable speed limit's a fairly new philosophy. You don't get the warning on if you're in the shoulder when you shouldn't be. The red act is pretty obvious. And then after the 2 weeks, they will be ticketing for the variable speeds. So that's kind of how. Public outreach and enforcement.
We've tried to idiot-proof these signs as much as possible. They're very descriptive. Like, not only does it have the red X on it, but it's gonna say, like, shoulder closed over it. And when it's not just gonna be a green arrow, it's gonna say shoulder open. Mike?
Yes, abandoned vehicle issues. We all drive 670 east and west enough, and there's often abandoned vehicles in that left shoulder
Sure.
next to the barrier, right?
Yeah.
So it goes without saying that on your sweep, you're going to be towing those vehicles. Obviously during use, because abandoned vehicles happen.
Yeah.
How do you get in and get that vehicle when that lane is in use?
So a part of our freeway service patrol contract now gave us a tow truck. So we actually have an ODOT freeway service patrol truck that during this, when this is going to be open, we're going to have a tow truck station nearby to quickly move it. And that's a part of the identification. So if let's say the shoulder is open and the vehicle stalls out or breaks down and is now blocking that left lane, we now have the incident management capabilities downstream to shift the traffic over, close that lane, and then at the gantry before that, we'll start moving the traffic over to avoid that incident.
Is there also a contract in place that gives bonuses to some of the people that we contract with currently.
So we
There
have,
is.
Faster
yeah.
clearings.
There is, but we're gonna utilize the FSP first, but yeah, if it happens while it's open, we close it. We close it until it's clear,
Right, and then you have a dedicated tow truck to get in there and get it really quick. so
which
you
will be
open it that way.
stationed there on that corridor waiting, yes, exactly.
right,
Yeah.
The multiple lanes, so you're gonna have one variable speed for all 3 lanes or 4 lanes are over,
Yeah.
and be variable speed on each.
yeah, it's gonna be consistent for all lanes, so.
Yeah, but if you're driving through the zone, it might be different. So for instance, if you're in the middle of the day, the lane normally wouldn't be open. There's a crash here towards the airport, you'll be coming in 65, 65, as you get closer, you'll be dropped down to 55. So while your lanes will be the same, spatially, you could be different across the corridor.
Bill?
So I was curious when you had about the toast metrics, one of them was the freight corridor. And so what's the idea of like lost economic activity? Like if I think of a Target truck that got stuck on 71, even if it gets to Target 2 hours later than it otherwise would have, the stuff still got to Target, they're still going to sell the stuff.
Gas, time, wages.
Yeah, commissions.
Yeah.
It's backing up the next delivery. It's a chain
Yeah.
reaction.
And
Just
it,
part of the supply chain.
And that driver might be close to running out of drive time and
That's
have
right.
to pull over
Yep.
for a designated number of hours because they're only allowed to drive for so many hours at a time. If he hits that, if he's within 2 hours and he misses it, it might be a 10-hour delay.
plus Federal Highways makes us track freight performance measures, so the data's there. That's
Well, hey, if you want paid, you know, you
Yeah.
gotta get the federal money coming in.
I noticed that in the metrics for toast, you have a metric for secondary crashes, but I didn't see one for primary crashes.
That was the safety, what do you call it? Not
PSI density.
PSI, yeah, the safety, the are you doing better or worse than your sister segments number?
Yes.
That counts all crashes.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. So say you, on the lane, the berm lane, so there's a crash, and so you, on the previous sign, you start switching people over. Do you anticipate a potential for crash zone there? Because you're gonna have now people merging into the lane next to them suddenly.
So that would be up
Because
to,
they're on that lane and it's great, and then all of a sudden.
that would be up to the incident commander. Their normal process is they take lane plus one. So if they're working on the left shoulder, they would take that lane plus one, and then we would cone it off and shove people off to the right, right? As much as possible, we'll be shoving people to the left unless it happens to happen all the way on the left side of the
You're
road.
probably gonna get a drop speed limit at that point.
You would get drop speed limit, you would be shoved over ahead of time to get away from there. But normally they do take the extra lane beside it so that they can work.
What happens if your resources get overutilized and you stop getting data in real time? Is that a problem?
Are you speaking in general or 670?
Well, let's just say 670, for instance, since it's gonna have all this smart data associated with it. So say resources get overutilized,
Yeah.
everything's congested, now you have no data coming in, you can't
Yeah.
react.
Yeah.
What does that do?
So into the hardware, we build in defaults. So if we lose communication with it, let's say it gets overwhelmed, it basically falls back to the default state. In 670's case, it would be the lane is closed and the speeds are 65.
Okay.
It would just default back if it's not getting anything from us. If as an operator, you can't get data being fed to you, then you fall back to your training and visuals. You just look at the cameras and say, okay, you're eyeballing it that way.
Right, that's what I was wondering, if these things have defaults as well, to operate autonomously.
So, yes.
If TMC is disconnected.
Yes, we want to move towards, like, let's take I-90 because we're a little bit out ahead of that. We've been in it for a couple of years. We still have an operator flip the switch, but we've got the software built that it is recommending speeds for them based on all the data. We're not yet there, but we very, very soon will be there to where we trust the recommendation enough that we will let it actually change the speeds and then then alert the TMC so they can double check it. We're still at the point where they have to say, yes, that's right, and unfortunately still sometimes they say, no, that's not right, let me tweak that. But we do want to eventually lead to a state, especially as we roll more and more of these out. You know, we only have a small number of these active traffic management corridors, but that will grow over time. But we'll have to automate some.
So that's active, so that's real time,
This
so
is
that's streaming
active
right
traffic.
through the memory, right to your
Correct.
stuff, right?
They'll give you, like on 670, there's, I don't know how many, maybe Jamie knows, there's a handful of speed sensors along the corridor that feeds directly to the decision-making tools. in real time. It tells you, here's the speeds right here across the lane.
So I think we need to wrap up, but these are all awesome questions. If you want to have further discussions about this, I'll meet you guys downstairs in front of where the coffee was at, and we can talk about this all day long.
The closing session starts in 6 minutes in the main room downstairs.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.